I'm fine, thank you very much. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. May Allah bless you. Allah keep you well. Thank you for coming here today.
Uh, yeah, thank you very much. I'm trying to switch my Bluetooth. I don't know if you can hear me loud and clear.
I do.
But anyway,
Yeah.
okay, thank you very much. First of all, this was a very powerful, anointing speech that you delivered in the beginning of the program.
Sure.
Undoubtedly, every word and every sentence that you read from the Hadith of Imam Masum alayhi salam made a lot of sense. As why not to engage in any type of revolt, uprising with the running government
Yeah.
in the name of Islamic revolution or holy war and what. How so true and full of wisdom in projecting
Alhamdulillah.
the aftermath of such uprising or revolt in the name of holy war or whatever we've been hearing for all these years. I was shocked. I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you. First of all, they call it Islamic Revolution of
Yeah.
Iran.
Yeah.
Was Shah Iran not a Muslim? First of all. And the book that you were quoting, the Hadith of Imam, do they have these books in Jose Ilmiya in Qum? There were hundreds and thousands of mujtahid and ayatullahs. How come neither of them stood against such labeling of Islamic revolution? Do you have any knowledge of that? Was there an
So,
opposition for such thing?
so in the Hausa, it's a very tragic reality, a very brutal fact that Hadith is not read. Hadith is ridiculed. And time and again, when I mention that the greatest harm to Shia religion comes from its own ulama, I'm very serious about this. See, if these
Definitely.
ahadith were taught, if these ahadith were read before the revolution would not have happened. And hundreds of thousands of lives would not have been ruined. Millions of lives would not have been ruined. So, at that time, before the revolution, there was the group of scholars and ulama who were involved in the revolution. They were very outspoken. And they would anybody who opposed them, they were immediately labeled as being the agent of the Shah, being agent of Savak. So, and these ahadith were all, if you tried to read these ahadith, you were ridiculed. You would not be listened to, you'd be ridiculed. There was a famous scholar in Hausa, his name is Muhammad Taqi Bahjat, Ayatollah Bahjat. He's very well known. One of his colleagues recently revealed that before the revolution, Ayatollah Bahjat told me that I am not with this revolution and I oppose this revolution. Sheikh Muhammad Ali Grami, Muhammad Ali Grami is also one of the Maraji now. He said that he was, and I asked him why. At that time, he said, Muhammad Ali Grami says that I was very pro-revolution. I was one of the revolutionary young people at the time. And I said, why? And he said, he recited to me this hadith of Al-Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam that I read to you today. He said, this is why. And he said that I'm not with this revolution and I don't think these guys will go anywhere. They will be able to fulfill their promises that they give Islamic government and a bright future for Shias. This will not going to happen. So there were very few scholars who had read these ahadith, but they did not really, nobody had the courage to come in public and read these ahadith in public in front of people for various reasons. First of all, scholars in Hausa, they don't read hadith. If they read hadith, they always misinterpret hadith on some other grounds. It's very common because they don't understand hadith. And so for them, their ijtihad precedes everything, supersedes everything. If they have a preconceived notion, then they will reject any hadith that is opposite to their views. And also the main factor at the time, or equally main factor at the time, was that scholars did not dare to oppose Khomeini, because Khomeini and his people around him, they were very outspoken and they had the media in their service. By media, I mean BBC and Voice of America and Deutsche Welle, because at that time there were no internet at the time, there were no social media. Inside Iran, the media was controlled by the Shah, but people did not really listen much to domestic news. A lot of people got their news and news analysis from overseas. So the BBC, and after that Voice of America and Deutsche Welle, these radio stations they were very effective during the Cold War in the 1970s and 80s. They had widespread audience, and they were at the service of Khomeini. Very few people know this, especially in Pakistan and in the United States, that Khomeini had long-standing contacts with the US government before the revolution. And in many of these Islamic movements that you see in the Islamic countries, they are either supported and chaperoned by Soviet Union, now by Russia, or by the West. Most of the Islamic parties in the Islamic world and Islamic movement in the Islamic world, they are not native. They do not genuinely represent the aspirations of the people. They are mostly, a lot of times, like the Afghan Mujahideen and Afghanistan Islamic parties in Pakistan. They are supported by other countries, by foreign countries, by the West and the Western governments, and before that the Soviet Union. They used to take advantage of these Islamic movements. So at any rate, anybody who opposed Khomeini, if you try to, in the 1970s, if you try to oppose Khomeini because you recite a hadith, you would be stoned by Khomeini's followers. Khomeini had given a fatwa in Najaf that he said that, this is also present in his book, Wilayat al-Faqih, his lecture. He said, those scholars who oppose the Islamic revolution, dishonor them. He said to us, he was a marja at the time. Dishonor them. I don't say kill them, but take away their amamas, take away their turbans, and dishonor them and shame them so they cannot come to the minbar again. And when he gave this fatwa, why? Because there were certain ulama against him. What happened? Some scholars were killed. One of the scholars who was very famous at the time, Ayatollah Shamsabadi in Isfahan, he was Ayatollah who is represented a very respectable man. Khomeini's followers killed him. They kidnapped him and killed him because he opposed Khomeini. So at that time, if you opposed Khomeini, you would be calling for the wrath of the revolutionary forces, and these guys were not joking around. They will kill you, and they will tarnish your reputation. They will everywhere. They will say, "Oh, you're an agent of the Shah. You're an agent of Savak, and you have taken money from the Savak." And they would I'll give you another example. A very famous marja in Najaf al-Ashraf, very famous. His name is Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Rouhani. Sayyid Muhammad Rouhani was very knowledgeable. He a man of profound knowledge. Many of the Maraji are his students. For instance, Sheikh Bashir Najaf is a student. Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, who was an outstanding scholar himself, he was a student. And amongst this, he was looked upon as one of the future marja when Khomeini was alive. So when he came, Khomeini in 1963, when he went to Najaf, the scholars of Najaf did not really show respect for Khomeini, and they did not receive him really as an equal marja. They looked down at him as someone who was not really well versed in Islamic sciences. Yeah. So amongst them was Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Rouhani. Sayyid Muhammad Rouhani had a great following in Najaf, especially amongst senior students, because they all looked up at him and admired him for his knowledge and his learning, and he was very profound in his lectures. And he was against Khomeini, and his lectures obviously outshined Khomeini's lectures. So what did Khomeini and his party do? Sayyid Abdul Hamid Rouhani, who's alive now, and he is the head of the Islamic Revolution's archives. So he is supposed to safeguard the documents of the revolution. He faked a check from Iranian embassy made to Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Rouhani. A fake check. And he published it, made it public in Najaf. That Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Rouhani is getting money from whom? From the Shah. So he is an agent of the Shah. Look, we have the check here. The check is made
Just to
him.
defame him, yeah.
Yeah, just to defame him. Just a check is made to what? With his name on it from the embassy of Iran, Shah's embassy in Baghdad. And that tarnished his reputation. He was never able again to restore his reputation. After his death, he died after his death. It was revealed the check was fake.
Fake.
So you could, when you kill a person's reputation, destroy, it's like killing him. Then he is not able to, he cannot, he doesn't have the media, he doesn't have the resources to clear his name. And everybody throughout the Muslim world, Shia world, they think, oh, look at this biggest scandal. Oh, this scholar that we respected, he was on the payroll of the Iranian Secret Service. Yeah. So they knew these dirty games. So at that time, for religious scholars to oppose Khomeini was not easy, was very difficult. Yeah. Even today, the same game. Even today, the same is playing today. There are lots of scholars today who have problems with this, differences with Iranian system, Iranian government, Islamic revolution, but they cannot voice their opinion because they know the consequences. Because their reputation would be smeared. They'll be made the object, the target of attacks, personal attacks. So that's why they stay silent. Yeah.
And who knows, a lot of them might have been eliminated. We never know because the media is very well controlled in Iran. But I'm just kind of, wondering, whatever you read today as a warning of our Imam Masum al-Islam, it's very true. Look what happened after the revolution, so-called Islamic revolution of Iran. It created a rift between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And then we see a trail of a very devastating wave of terrorism. ISIL, Daesh, all of these are funded. We know who are they were funded by and are still being funded. And Saudi Arabia, and of course, there are two factions. Iran is known to be a Shiites faction or pro-Shiites or a Shia Islamic state. And so is Saudi Arabia, a Sunni Islamic state. And I see a trail of constantly increasing horrific and terrorist activities in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and in Iran itself. Now, the result of that is not only it hurt the Shiites a lot, it did hurt Iran a whole lot. Their economical sanctions, their suffering, just because of making one blunder mistake. Now, what happened after that is there is a large number of countries in the West. Those were looking for an opportunity to annihilate those oil-rich regimes, though they were in power, or turn them into their own favor. What happened in Syria, what happened in Afghanistan, these are all the consequences of creating a rift between the Muslim factions, Shia and Sunnis, and the other forces are definitely taking advantage of it. So we definitely did not pay attention to what was born thousands of years ago by our Imam, and it is so very true. So this would have been a different scenario, in your opinion, Hassan Allahyari, brother. Would have this been a different scenario? There would have been a different aftermath of this revolution if it was not called a Islamic revolution. Let's say if they had labeled it Revolution of Iran, would that have made any difference?
Absolutely, absolutely,
in whatever is going on.
So Khomeini led this revolution, and Khomeini called himself the Imam of the Muslim world, Wali Amr al-Muslimin. And he said he is going to export this revolution. He said that he clearly said, not once, time and again, he came on the Iranian media and he said, we are going to export this revolution. That meant there will be revolutions in Pakistan, there will be revolution in Iraq, there will be revolution in Kuwait, there will be revolution in Saudi Arabia, there will be revolution in Jordan, there will be revolution in Egypt. And who is the leader? Khomeini is the leader. Amongst them, the
Right.
most sensitive country was Iraq, because Iraq was a Shia majority country. Iraq was at the time, and a Sunni minority was ruling. Khomeini came on TV, and you would not believe he came. This is before Iran-Iraq war, and he said Saddam is kafir. He did takfir of Saddam, the president of neighboring country. Although when Khomeini toppled Shah and the revolution was victorious, the first country that sent a congratulatory note was Iraq. Iraq was the first country that sent. But Khomeini at that time, he did not have a good understanding of geopolitics in a situation in Iraq. And he thought that he had just toppled Saddam. And he saw himself so popular. And he was popular indeed in Iraq and throughout the Muslim world, especially in the Shia world. Very popular. And he thought that he could replicate this revolution in Iraq. So he came on TV.
In Iraq.
Yeah, he came on TV and said Saddam is kafir, and it's incumbent upon the people of Iraq to rise up against Saddam, and especially armed forces.
And
he called upon armed forces, the military, Iraqi military, to depose Saddam. So and everybody was against this. Like all this, because the Soviet Union, that's at that time Iraq was a pro-Soviet Union during the Cold War, pro-Soviet Union state, and the United States was also against
Russia,
this.
And Russia,
yeah,
right. And on a side note, Russia was trying to help the 1991 war. They were trying to be a mediator. They wanted to stop America in hasting to attack Iraq. They were trying to help Saddam Hussein, but nothing really happened. December the 22nd, they started bombing and they killed hundreds and thousands of. And then after this, if it is a statement from Khomeini, genocide of Shia.
So let me complete my answer to your question. So what happened?
Please go ahead. I apologize for the interruption.
So because Saddam knew that where's Karbala? Karbala is in Iraq, under the Iraqi rule. Najaf is in Iraq. Samarra is in Iraq. Kazmi is in Iraq. And Khomeini has just declared himself the Imam of the Muslim world. And Iraq is a Shia country, Shia majority country. And if he wants to create a revolution in Iraq, it will not be very difficult for him, unless he's opposed, unless he's stopped. So what did Saddam do? Saddam cracked down on Shias. Saddam cracked down. Right. Any person of influence in Iraqi army who was Shia, he was killed.
Eliminated.
Any person in the Iraqi business community, in the government, in the bureaucracy, and any person who had religious leanings, not only being pro-Iran, just to be religious, because it would be religious people who would come out to in support of Khomeini's call. Saddam incarcerated them and killed them and eliminated them. So it was a very bad time of mass persecution, mass hanging, mass killing for Shias, right after the Iraqi revolution. And the Iraqi Hausa, hundreds, perhaps thousands of scholars were killed. Amongst them, Baqir al-Sadr was a very prominent scholar at the time. And he wanted to come to Iraq, but Khomeini personally sent a telegram to him, official, because telegrams, obviously, you say sell a telegraph, you send it to Iraqi Ministry of Communication, they will read it. He said, you have to stay in Iraq and lead the revolution. So in a sense, Khomeini cleared the way for him to be killed by Saddam. And then all the countries of the Arab countries of the region, they were alarmed by this. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, because they knew if Khomeini was able to topple Iraq and take over Iraq, it would be a superpower state. Because Iraq and Iran combined, then they will dominate the Middle East. Then there will nobody will be able to challenge them, and nobody will be able to oppose them. Yeah. So they did what? They encouraged Saddam to attack. And then at that time, Khomeini himself did not help either. Khomeini, at that time, he made statements. He did not make any conciliatory. This is very, very long debate. How Saddam attacked Iran. The Iranian ambassador at the time in Iraq was Sayyid Mahmoud Duai. He recently passed away. He himself said, Saddam called me to his office. He was the Iranian ambassador in 1979 in Baghdad, Khomeini's ambassador. He said, Saddam called me and he told me that please ask your government, do not interfere in Iraq. If Khomeini wants, wow, I'll come to Tehran. I'll personally come and meet with him. We want to have brotherly relationship with you, good relationship with you. And if you do not stop this, a war is inevitable. Then we will have to attack. There's no other way. You leave us no option. You leave us no option.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Duai says, I came. Duai says, I came and I met Khomeini. And I told him, Saddam is going to attack. He's serious. And he has made, but he doesn't want to attack. He wants to make peace with us. Khomeini looked at me and he laughed. He says, oh, who is Saddam? How could he attack? We toppled Shah. He can never attack us. And Khomeini did not take it serious. At that time, even the United States at the time, he said, because the United States was monitoring everything through its agencies, also satellites, so they knew about preparations. They gave warning to Iran that Saddam will attack you. You have to be prepared. Khomeini did not take any of those seriously. Khomeini, he didn't understand what the situation was. So the attack happened. And this war, and then once the war started, Saddam, after the war, immediately after a few weeks, he said that, okay, he realized that he cannot defeat Iran. He realized in the beginning. He wanted to pull out and stop the war. Khomeini then said, no, we are not going to stop the war. Khomeini could have stopped this war. If you remember in the 80s, it was Khomeini always insisting that we will fight till the end, until we conquer Baghdad.
But the people in Pakistan, sorry to cut you off, they have the other impression that it was Saddam Hussein who never wanted to stop the war. It's not just
absolutely not. Absolutely not. In 1980 or 81, the Conference of Islamic Countries, they promised Iran for reparations. If you stop the war, we will pay for all your costs of the war. Khomeini rebuffed them. Yeah, there were many. There are many. This is clearly established. Saddam started the war, but Khomeini continued the war. Saddam from the beginning of the war, just a few weeks after the war, rather a few days after the beginning of the war, he wanted to stop the war because he realized he could not. He made a mistake. He could not defeat Iran. Yeah, but Khomeini insisted. This was common at the time. This slogan, "Jang Jang ta Piruzi." We were going to and Rah Quds as Karbala migzarat. The road to Jerusalem goes through Karbala. Yeah, that we are going to conquer Karbala, and then we are going to march on to capture Israel, to capture Jerusalem. That was Khomeini's slogan. Yeah.
Oh, he was intoxicated with the fame and the power that he gained after this revolution. I believe that's
absolutely,
why.
Absolutely.
But it's very unfortunate, and we are seeing everything. All of these Imams, Hadith, Alayhi Hadith, it's so true. Every word, every sentence, we now look at it. It's giving us a prediction. What will happen if you do something wrong? And I think millions of people, if you look at Iraq, Iran, Syria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, millions of people died because of one wrong step. Allama Hassan Allahyari, brother, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. May Allah bless you, Sayyid Haidar. May Allah keep you well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. May Allah bless you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz. Thank you. So this wave of anti-Shiism, especially militant anti-Shiism, takfir of Shiism, this is a direct result of Khomeini's revolution. Before 1979, there was not one Islamic group in the world, not one jihadi group in the world with the aim of takfir of Shia and killing Shias. Now there are many, many groups around the Muslim world. Wherever there is a Shia community, there is a group that does takfir of Shia and In many cases, there are groups engaged in militarily and armed opposition to Shia, to physically clear the Shia populations. And this is a tragedy. This is a direct result of Khomeini's revolution. Because the reason for that is wherever there's a Shia population, Iranian government tries to manipulate it and control it and use it as its pawns in that country.